From the moment we met, there was an undeniable spark between us, a magnetic attraction that pulled us together. Everything developed rapidly, as if we were caught in a whirlwind of emotions, making it impossible to imagine our lives without this exhilarating storm. Those days were wonderful. We couldn't get enough of each other's messages, living in what felt like a beautiful fairy tale. Our nightly conversations stretched until dawn, filled with laughter, dreams, and shared hopes. In 2006, we decided to move in together, a natural progression of our relationship. By 2008, we made it official, signing the papers and truly becoming a family. At the time, my job barely paid the bills, but it never dampened our spirits. We thrived in our little bubble, cherishing every moment. Even when financial struggles arose, they could not overshadow the joy we felt in each other's company. Eventually, we began thinking about starting a family. When my wife announced her pregnancy, it marked a profoundly special chapter in our lives. In 2011, our daughter was born, and that day remains one of the happiest of my life. The overwhelming joy of bringing her home from a hospital was indescribable. We embraced the adventure of parenting our little princess, and for a time, everything felt perfect. But as our daughter turned 1, I began to notice subtle changes in my wife. At first, they were barely perceptible, but they gradually evolved into something far more troubling. She started stirring up conflicts seemingly out of nowhere. Her outbursts became frequent and relentless. I did my best to accommodate her, to diffuse the tension, but nothing seemed to work. Every small action of mine became a source of irritation. Placing a mug incorrectly, changing clothes in the wrong spot, watching TV, or working on a computer. She scrutinized my every move, constantly pointing out my shortcomings. Eventually, I felt trapped, unsure what else I could do to restore the peace we once had. In a moment of frustration, I announced that I was leaving. Without a clear destination, I simply put on my clothes, walked out, got into my car, and drove to work. I spent the night there, waiting, hoping for a call or a message from her. But there was nothing. It was as if she was completely indifferent. The next day, as I struggled to process what had happened, she finally called and suggested we meet. She wanted me to check out of the room that belonged to her parents. It turned out they had made their decision. Let him go wherever he wants. They planned to sell the room to help finance the purchase of our apartment. When I arrived, we went through the necessary paperwork. But as we stepped outside, my mother-in-law asked where I was headed. Before I could respond, my wife coldly remarked, "Yeah, let him go wherever he wants." Those words hit me like a death sentence, shattering any hope of reconciliation. I returned to work, spending the rest of the day at my desk, lost in thought. Then, I received a message from her. At first, it was so cryptic that I struggled to understand. She mentioned seeing something today, and that I hadn't even blinked. She expressed shame in front of her mother, hinting at something unsaid. It took me a moment to realize what she meant. I had never considered the possibility before, but suddenly, it dawned on me. She had likely sent the message to the wrong person. I immediately called her, demanding an explanation. "Is this why you've been giving me such a hard time?" I asked. She fumbled for words, claiming the message was meant for a friend and was about her friend's husband, not me. But I could hear the tremor in her voice, the nervous hesitation. It quickly became clear that she was lying. The message had been meant for someone else, someone with whom she once shared a close connection. As I uncovered more, I realized she had also been feeding her parent a distorted narrative, painting me as an unworthy husband. Determined to reveal the truth, I showed her parents the message. They dismissed it as a misunderstanding. While we spoke, my wife approached, looked me straight in the eye, and coldly asked, "Why are you interfering?" before walking away without waiting for a response. Shortly after, she called me, apologized, and asked me to do the same. Her words seemed sincere, and despite the storm raging within me, I decided to give her another chance. I forgave her. However, trust was already broken. I began monitoring her social media and discovered messages she had sent to former classmates. Declarations of love, wistful regrets, words that cut deeply. "I've always had feelings for you. We could have been together a long time ago, she had written, followed by flirtatious suggestions. Take me for a ride in your car. Come to me. Over time, she became more careful, deleting messages before I could see them, but the doubt never left me. Despite this, life seemed to be improving. My career took off, my salary became decent, and financial struggles were left behind. We lived in comfort, something we had only dreamed before. But my wife couldn't seem to hold on to a job. She jumped from one position to another, never settling anywhere for long. Even so, my income was enough to provide for our family. Yet her demands grew. She asked for a new phone, and I readily agreed to buy it. When she got bored with it, she wanted another. I bought her a tablet when she decided to pursue a law degree, covering her education costs without hesitation. Eventually, she obtained her driver's license, and soon she needed a car. Naturally, I bought one. Refusing her seemed impossible. It always led to arguments and complaints. Looking back, it was clear where things were heading. After the car, everything began to change even more. It was an autumn day in 2013. My wife was working as a pharmacist and drove to work in our new car, while my daughter and I stayed home, since she didn't have kindergarten that day. At one point, she expressed a desire to ride the train. It seemed like a peculiar idea, but I thought, why not? We hopped on the train, visited my wife at work for a while, and then headed back home. It was after that visit to the pharmacy that everything changed. Shortly after we left, a man showed up at her workplace, someone she had met there. Their interaction quickly escalated beyond casual conversation, leading to something much more. This sparked yet another wave of arguments and confrontations. One day, I noticed her taking birth control pills and asked why she needed them. Her reply hit me like a punch. "So I don't get pregnant by you." That remark was the breaking point. I called her parents to discuss what was happening, and they were taken aback. They had always supported us and never anticipated such a shocking turn of events. When she returned home, a massive argument erupted between her and her parents. She screamed, blaming everyone but herself, as if something had snapped inside her. Later, I learned that she had cheated on me right there at the pharmacy. I couldn't eat or sleep, losing weight daily, while she appeared to rest peacefully, as if nothing was wrong. Once the truth emerged, my first instinct was to leave, but when she fell to her knees, pleading for me to stay and forgive her, claiming she had realized her mistakes and feared losing me, something inside me broke. I don't know how it happened, but I chose to forgive her. After that, she quit her job at the pharmacy and stayed home. 6 months passed. When I took a vacation, my mother invited my wife and daughter to join her on a trip. I bought their tickets, but with 10 days left before their departure, we decided to spend some time in the village. After 3 days, she started having trouble breathing, so we had to return to the city for medical help. I found a clinic, paid for the treatment, and she was prescribed nasal rinses. She offered to stay in the city for the duration of the treatment while I returned to the village. Given everything that had happened, I couldn't leave her alone without concern. I asked a few friends to keep an eye on her, leaving them some money for any unexpected expenses. I tried to distract myself, but then the phone rang. Those same friends informed me that she was not only taking care of her nasal issue, but also entertaining men. My heart sank, and I had to take Corvalol and Validol just to cope with the shock. It turned out that she had created a fake profile to meet men and arrange meetings. While I was at work, she found time and places for these encounters, near our house, at the pharmacy, in the car, in the woods, and who knows where else. Watching a loved one commit such betrayal was unbearable. The silence that followed was a final nail in the coffin of our family. I uncovered the truth about how she viewed me, her indifference, her deception. Our life together was merely a formality for her, contingent only on the presence of our daughter. Her infidelities weren't isolated incidents, but a systematic pattern with countless episodes. She returned from Kazakhstan in tears, full of remorse, but her words once again proved to be empty. She tried to downplay her actions, insisting on her loyalty. The promises made in our daughter's name felt hollow and unconvincing. My love, weighed down by pain and uncertainty, held on tightly. I can't imagine my life without her or my daughter, but how can I continue living with someone who constantly disrespects and betrays me? I've heard her excuses, how I haven't fully satisfied her in our intimate life. Yet her coldness doesn't justify her actions. How can someone deceive so cruelly a person who loves them deeply? I feel adrift, overwhelmed with sadness, unsure which path to take. I have decided not to file for divorce until our daughter can stand on her own